What was your, well, somebody had to do it, moment?
Story 1. I was on a road trip with two friends and we stopped in Pittsburgh for the night at Holiday Inn or some sort of similar chain. We've been driving all day from the greater Chicago area, only stopping at shady, filthy rest stops to pee and eat junk food in the car for meals. So we checked into this place, which was nice for the price we paid, and we're chilling out watching TV when, at about 11 p.m., all those spicy Cheetos catch up with me. So I head to the bathroom to do my thing. At this point, I should note that all three of us are splitting this hotel room, one in one bed, one in another, and one on the fold-out couch. There's only one bathroom, so I go in, and I know it's going to be bad. I turn the exhaust fan on, I crack the itty-bitty window, and I let it loose. I'm telling you, this was crap for the ages. It wouldn't stop. I swear there was a 1.5 foot log coiled in that bowl for about 4 bags of Cheetos, 4 Butterfingers, and a 6-pack of Mountain Dew sitting on top of that. The pile is out of the water. After I'm finished sacrificing my sphincter to the porcelain god, I'm standing there looking at this mountain of crap and I know it's not going anywhere. But what can I do? So I flush, and what happens? Exactly what you'd expect. As I'm watching the water level go up and up, I rip the back of the toilet and grab the float and stop all water flow. Well, crap. What should I do? No plunger, no one at the front desk, and there's no way 3 20-year-old guys can't have a toilet for 12 hours. So I grab the thin plastic garbage bag out of the can, put it on like a glove, and shove that turd down. So I'm up to my elbow in my own filth, yelling at my friends to find a plunger, and they're laughing hysterically at me and my improvised poo plunger, so no help there. Finally, I get the toilet to flush, and I take the bag off my arm, turn it inside out, tie it in a knot, and throw it back in the can. In the morning, I left a big tip on the dresser, and we took off. Bonus, I forgot my wallet, so I had to go back to the scene of the crime and face the staff in all my shame. Oh, I like to laugh at crimes of poop nature, poopetrators as you are, and, I want to laugh, but it's so gross. Oh, the garbage bag and having to... No, I don't. Oh, it's funny, but it makes me feel nauseated. Story 2. I work at a motel, and the local police don't bother with our calls due to the fact that their priority is the airport and high-end hotels. One night, I was making my walk around, picking up trash, and making sure everything was sound and safe when I looked over to a window that had the blinds half open. I saw a man holding a woman on the bed with his hand on her neck, choking her, and his other fist in the air. She was fighting him off, and I knew she was in trouble. I dialed 911 and reported it, only to be told we'll send someone as soon as we can, which in this area means we don't care. So I threw my phone in my pocket with the operator on the line and broke into the room and tackled the guy assaulting the woman. I secured his hands behind his back, nearly dislocating his shoulder. What I didn't see was the other 4 guys in the room. They proceeded to pull me off and beat me half to death. The woman tried to pull them off of me, but to no avail. After 3 broken ribs, severe bruising to my lungs, sides, and face, and a sprained wrist, I hobbled back to my office after everyone, including the woman, had run off, leaving me bloody and injured on the floor of the room. Cops showed up 5 minutes after I had started bandaging myself up. They asked, "Why did you go in there?" And I swear to God, the only thing I said was, "Well, he could have killed her, and if you guys wouldn't show up, someone else had to do it." Of course, HR said that I strongly suggest you call an employment lawyer and get your bills covered. You were protecting someone on their property and were assaulted on their property. It will never go to court. Their insurance will settle for medical plus some suffering. I mean, I'm very sorry to hear that you got beat up like that, but kudos to you for doing the right thing, helping someone who, at the very least, appeared to be in need. And, it's not there's not a great answer in that situation, is there? I mean, the best you can do is call out for help, kick in the door. I mean, I don't know what else you do in that moment, especially just thinking on the fly, protecting someone. So I'm going to say good on you.
Story 3. Last week, starting from Sunday, March 31st, my female friend started having crazy abdominal pain. We live in the campus dorms. By Wednesday night, she was crying in my arms from the pain. Never seen her like that, too. I looked it up, figured it was probably an ovarian cyst or an appendicitis. She didn't want to do anything about it. The following night was the worst. She still didn't want to go to the ER, didn't want to skip work, classes. Didn't realize she could get a serious infection and die. The other guys we hung out with didn't get it either. I woke them up and told them to give us a lift to the nearest hospital. We pretty much had to drag her kicking and screaming. By the time we were there, it got worse. I stayed alone with her, held her a while she was telling me she wanted to die. I skipped triage and brought her to the ER, telling the doctors to help her right the frick now. They hooked up on morphine. It barely helped. I spent the night with her, I comforted her, I had seen her suffer a lot before. She's been AR'd, beat on, depressed, traumatized. She doesn't deserve this on top of it all. I don't ever want her to feel that helpless again. I was almost unbearable seeing her like that, but there was no way I was leaving her alone. Diagnosis, she had a 9.5 centimeter ovarian cyst. I didn't even know that was possible. She was operated on last Friday. She's now home to her parents until the end of the week. She's doing better. She's very lucky you forced her to go to the hospital. If it had ruptured, it could have very well killed her. I had one rupture last year and spent a week in the hospital with peritonitis. Story 4. Probably too late to the party, but my friend and I were at a dollar store buying drinks. An old man with what looked like Parkinson's was ahead of us, and a few people were being served at the register. The clerk tallied up the items, and the man put them back in his bag he brought before getting his money out. The poor bloke didn't have enough money. It broke my heart to see him try to figure out what to give back and not buy. He ended up taking a lot out of his bag and was mumbling. I ended up jumping the line and paying for the items. Afterward, he shook my hand and said thanks, and it seemed like it was a struggle for him just to do that. Until I paid for his items, he was there for a few minutes. Everyone else just ignored him. After I paid for the items, my friend said it was a nice thing to do. I asked if they would have done the same, and they said no. It changed my outlook that day. Whenever I see someone who needs help, I always try and do what I can.
Do I have an award for, coolest person of the video? Applause, hooray, OP, that's such a wonderful, nice, heartwarming story. And I'd encourage more people to just do stuff like that. Don't do it expecting anything in return. Just do it to know that you're helping someone, and maybe they'll help someone in return and make the world a little better place. So, thanks for being awesome.
Story 5. I was a lifeguard at a summer day camp. One of the campers had autism spectrum disorder, but it was mild enough that the camp allowed him to come. One day he lashed out violently towards one of the counselors. I was on my stand by the pool when my boss comes running over. I don't remember what she said, I just remember turning to see the boy running for the hills and a counselor lying against a steel door. He had thrown her against it. I jumped off my stand and just ran after the kid because I didn't know where he would go. There were a couple acres of woods he could have run off to. I caught up and stopped him. I got him to sit down and we just talked. Some of the other counselors and staff started coming over, but I waved them off because he said he would only talk to me. I don't know why he responded to me and not anyone else. I just made him comfortable. Eventually his mom picked him up and he never came back. I don't remember a lot about him other than that I felt bad for him. The kid was alone. Story 6. In grade 8, there was this girl who thought it was totally okay to punch, kick, and sack guys because guys aren't allowed to hit girls. After going through a year and a half of this, I thought, frick it, and Sparta-kicked that bee. I kicked her hard enough to knock the wind out of her. Obviously, I didn't mean to hit that hard, but a guy can only get kicked in the bits so many times, and I had literally zero repercussions. The one teacher that saw it didn't do anything because he knew what she did, and a few guys high-fived me while most chicks hated me. I don't regret my actions, and girls like that need to get their crap straight.
I mean, it is not okay for anyone to be hitting anywhere like that. Be it a girl hitting a guy hitting a girl stuff. It's not okay what she was doing. I don't know that the answer was necessarily kicking her like that in a way that could have injured her even more seriously. Like you said, you didn't try and hit that hard, but it's could have maybe broken a rib or punctured a lung. I don't know. So I wouldn't recommend that course of action, like trying to get someone to stop it, but at the same time, I can understand being frustrated having someone treat you like that for that long. So, yeah, I get it.
Story 7. In elementary school, my class went on a trip to a campground/nature reserve thing. They took us on a tour and stopped around various plants to inform us about them. When talking about one of the plants, they told us that they didn't know whether or not they were poisonous. I ate some. It had no discernible effect on me. I got sent home. I did it for science. That's how discoveries are made. Story 8. Chose to make the phone call to my roommate's dad to tell him he died rather than having the police tell him. I still feel horrible about it because I told him Greg had a medical emergency. His dad had to ask me, did he die? Because I couldn't bring myself to say so. Had a similar thing. My friend's dad had died of a heart attack and no one had been able to get a hold of him to break the news. After several hours, my phone was the only one to get through. I was too much of a coward to tell him what happened and just said, you need to drop everything and go home. Right now. You just need to go home. Story 9. New Year's Eve when I was around 14 years old at a friend's house with no parental supervision. The older brother pulled out a quarter stick of dynamite to light off at midnight. It was a cold Michigan winter, and so the smart thing to do was to open the door, walk, light the stick, and throw it from inside the house. Well, he dropped it, lit, on the floor. After we stared at each other for what seemed like an eternity, my soccer skills rushed in and I kicked it out the door. It went about 10 feet and then exploded. Could have lost a leg, but, well, somebody had to do it. Reminds me of a Malcolm in the Middle episode where he puts the grenade in the fridge. Story 10. At a kid's party, I was the only adult not drinking and having a good time because there was a frickin' pool with no fence around it. I stood there watching it like a hawk while trying to act like I wasn't judging everyone. Everyone was surprised when I fished a 4-year-old out of the water. They all just stood there while I hopped in to get her. My sister has a pool, and every time they have a party where there will be kids, they hire a lifeguard to watch the pool so that no one has to feel like they're carrying that burden. In the 5 or so parties I've been to with that lifeguard there, she's never had to even touch the water, but the kids' parents are always super appreciative that she is there.
Yeah, I'm sorry, adults, if you're going to have a party around an unguarded pool with either kids or pets, someone there should be sober to watch out for that kind of stuff and make sure people are safe, because an accident can happen without someone noticing. A kid can fall into a pool or sneak into a pool and their life can be threatened. And if someone's not on the alert, bad things can happen.
Story 11. This didn't happen to me, but to my grandma. She currently works as a bartender for the American Legion, and one day some random guy walks in and runs straight into the bathroom without saying a word to anyone. After about 20 minutes, he walks out, goes to his car, and leaves. Some other guy goes to the bathroom after him and runs out swearing like a sailor. It turns out the mystery man that had just left had released the inner contents of his bowels all over the bathroom. On the walls, the floor, the door, everywhere. He even left his crap-soaked underwear sitting in the trash next to the door. So what does my grandma do? She goes in there and cleans it all up by herself because nobody else wanted to do it. A couple weeks later, the same guy comes back, my grandma recognizes him and permabans him from the bar. Story 12. I accidentally signed up for a workshop on how to work with people who had cognitive impairments. Not many people sign up for these workshops, and the instructor said they had an immediate need for another teacher at a school for young adults with severe cognitive impairments. I was the only one in the room with a teaching certificate, and I was only waiting tables at the time, so I volunteered. I ended up working at that school for a year before they found a permanent teacher. I learned so much about humanity in that classroom. Story 13. Leaving first from friend's house, that moment when everyone is huddled at the front door, pointless conversation, hand on the knob. I'll be 10 feet down the drive, clicking my doors open.
You are an unspoken hero because, yeah, I rarely have the courage to be the one to just go, well, I'm leaving. Bye. Like, we need that person to be the first one to finally go because it releases the rest of us who are too socially awkward to just get out of there.
Story 14. I don't know, sometimes I'm that dude that writes correct answers on the book or the dude that erases the wrong answers on the book. Thank you. Unless you're also the guy that circles Waldo, in which case, frick you. Story 15. Reported my boss for harassment, bullying, and blackmail and being generally incompetent. Nobody else wanted to, so I thought, frick it, my turn be, and proceeded to make her life a misery. Story 16. Older woman, I would guess in her 70s, came into the movie theater I work at, and in the middle of the movie she went into the restroom, crapped her pants, took them off, walked out into the lobby wearing no pants with cramp streaming down her legs, leaving a trail. Guess which minimum wage worker had to clean it up? Oh man. Story 17. Someone I wasn't particularly friends with got way too drunk at my ex's house party and passed out in the bathtub. He crapped in the bathtub. I pushed the crap down the drain with a spoon, lost a part of myself that night, and he still doesn't know he did it. All joking aside, you are a good person. Story 18. I wrote a self-termination note for my sister. Her self-termination thoughts weren't being taken seriously by medical professionals, and she needed proper care. Story 19. I was walking with a friend and came across a snake with its head smashed in, but it was still alive, slithering in sad little circles. I begged my friend to put it out of its misery. I love snakes and had never killed anything before that point, but he was too queasy about it. I had to stomp the thing to death, and I cried the whole time. I had to do that with a bird my dog fricked up but didn't kill. I had to stand on its head. I was 12. Not fun when you're just a kid.
That isn't something that a kid should have to go through, but yeah, you don't want to see an animal just there suffering. Like, yeah, nature is harsh, animals killing and eating each other, all that kind of stuff, but you don't want to leave an animal just sitting there suffering for who knows how long. So putting it out of its misery in that case, I think hopefully you can at least tell yourself it was the right thing to do, even if the memory doesn't feel that good.
Story 20. Told a friend of mine that he was being cheated on by his girlfriend. A lot of people knew, and I hesitated to do it because she was friends with my girlfriend at the time, but I remember a guy I knew did that same thing for me when an ex was cheating on me while she was at college, and I thought it was the right thing to do because I definitely appreciated it. It made things a bit awkward for a bit, but I don't regret it at all. Story 21. We had this strange rule growing up where we weren't allowed to take shoots in my parents' bathroom, so I tried to time my shoots for when they weren't home. Nobody tells me where I can and can't crap. Nobody. I just imagine you squatting on the table at dinner, intensely looking everyone in the eye and pushing one out as you whisper, "Nobody." Story 22. I was at a party where a girl was out on the balcony smoking a cigarette by herself. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a tall little flame go up, and I thought, wow, that's an intense lighter flame. It took me a half a second to realize her hair was on fire, so I ran out there and smacked that girl's head to put out the fire. It turns out that she was very intoxicated, and she singed her eyebrow hairs and some of her bangs. The funny thing is that after I smacked her head and asked her if she was okay, she just went, "B, I'm fine," and kept smoking her cigarette.
Look, drunk girl at the party may have said, "B, I'm fine," and gone on partying the rest of the night, but I do promise you that the next day, the sober version of that woman is very thankful for what you did.
Story 23. My dad had announced that he was unhappy in his and my mom's marriage and that he was leaving. A month and a half passed and he still hadn't left, so I took things into my own hands. My mom was still in love and emotionally broken, and even though we all knew my dad was seeing someone, Mom didn't have the heart to tell him to leave already, so I did. I was 14 when I packed my dad's bags and told him to leave. After that, my mom became bulimic and started smoking like I had never seen her do before. Sure, I had to step up and carry the weight my dad left behind, but I still don't regret doing what I did. Story 24. On my school bus, this kid got a really bad bloody nose. All his friends started laughing at him, and this girl handed him paper as a joke to mop it all up. So after about 5 minutes of deliberation of whether I should help him because I was incredibly shy, I finally decided to give him a packet of tissues I had. I was bloody shaking as I did it and was so nervous because I'm just like that. It was a pretty proud moment for myself. Not that special. Good job. Story 25. I told the kid who kept following me and my friends around that we weren't friends, that he was not a part of the group, and that he was no longer welcome at our lunch table. At first, we tried to include him, but he kept trying to pick on one of the kids in the group to assert dominance and carve a spot for himself in the group's hierarchy. We found his blog. At first, we just ignored him and stopped inviting him when we hung out, but when he showed up to our Christmas party uninvited, it was the last straw.
I mean, it sounds like you gave this person a chance, tried to hang out with them, but they were being weird and had a blog about infiltrating your friend group or something. That's awkward, and I'm sure it couldn't have been comfortable confronting them like that, but hopefully it's something they learn from for future social interactions.
Story 26. Stopped a guy from punching his girlfriend in a drunken rage at a central station in Copenhagen. Once I stepped in, a lot of other people followed my lead, but only after I intervened. Story 27. Fighting 3 guys at once to defend a very small pacifist. I got my butt handed to me, but I kicked the crap out of one of the dude's testicles because frick rules, that's why. Story 28. Fishing out a giant turd from the bathwater after my 1.5-year-old son cranked one out at the end of his bath tonight. Yes, there was corn. At least he did it in the bath rather than on the carpet. Poop-smeared carpet is my least favorite kind of carpet. Story 29. Reporting gay assault of a starting quarterback at my school. I'm still paranoid that someone is still out to get me for it. You are amazing. Story 30. This will be buried because I'm late to this, but one time when I was still in college, I saw someone standing in the middle of the sidewalk when everyone was headed to class. They kept getting past, and they weren't really looking at anything, so it seemed odd. I went back, and it turns out they were blind. I asked if they needed directions or help, and she told me she was lost. Helped her get to the building she was looking for. I think I'm the only one who starts reading this kind of thing and automatically jumps to, then we just clicked, and I figured she would need help getting home from there, so I stuck around. She was so happy to hear me. When she got out, she teared a little, and now we have 3 healthy grandchildren, and we lived happily ever after.
Look, I think all of us who want the nice heartwarming stories were hoping for the very same thing. But, it's also a heartwarming story. Just helping someone in need and, maybe just becoming friends. That's a pretty great story in and of itself. But we can keep hoping that they're married with grandchildren and stuff now.
Story 31. I recently attempted self-termination and came very, very close to achieving that. When people see me, they often don't know how to respond, so I take it upon myself by singing, "Guess who's back? Back again." Someone has to break the silence, right? That is the perfect way to handle that situation. Story 32. I was about 12 or so. There was an older kid who was a bully and a prick, threatening about 10, but this might have been about 6 younger kids my age or slightly younger, prepubescent anyway. We were a small enough group. The older kid, who was maybe around 16, was saying how he could take us all on. We were too small, our balls hadn't dropped, he'd smashed the first kid who tried anything, etc. Halfway through his mocking rant, I charged him. I took a hefty punch to the face and was thrown over his shoulder, but the other kids were right behind me. I think he thought we'd be too cowardly to attack, or that no one would be first and take a definite punishment. I was in and out of that fight in 10 seconds, but the bully got his butt severely handed to him. Story 33. Told my friend's boyfriend he was cheating on him. He was such a nice guy and didn't deserve to go through what my sociopathic friend was putting him through. Me and my buddy had a lot of mutual friends I don't talk to anymore because I guess I'm a snitch. The two are back together. Sometimes I wish I never opened my mouth. Don't feel bad. They're freaking idiots. You did the right thing. I want a friend like you.
I know that there is an unspoken rule with some people, or even spoken in some cases, I'm sure, where it's like, nope, you don't tell someone that their partner's cheating on them. That's not your business, so just stay out of it. I mean, if the person being cheated on is your friend, yeah, it's your business. They're your friends. You care about them. Why wouldn't you go to them and be like, oh my gosh. I mean, I know it's not always going to end well. And sometimes they're going to be like, how dare you say that about them? I'm angry at you now. But I don't know. I would just rather be on what I think to be the right side of history in my friendships.
Story 34. Punched this kid in the face my senior year after he pushed my friend he was dating into a locker pretty frickin' hard, so I walked up and punched him directly in the face and snapped his nose. I was 18 and he was 15. I had a teacher back me up saying I was reacting to a potentially dangerous situation. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.